Have you ever felt like you weren't enough for what was in front of you? Like everyone expected strength from you, but inside, you felt afraid? Maybe you've prayed before and wondered, God, where are you? Maybe life has beaten you down so much that you've started hiding from the very thing you were meant to become. Maybe you feel weak, overlooked, unqualified. But this story reminds us that God often calls ordinary people in the middle of fear, weakness, and uncertainty, not after they become strong. And sometimes the people who feel the least capable are the very ones chosen to change everything.
Israel was starving, not because the land was empty, but because every time their crops grew, the enemy came, like locusts, endless, relentless. The Midianites swept across the land with their camels and tents, destroying farms, stealing animals, and leaving entire villages in ruins. Families hid in caves, in mountains, in fear, and somewhere in secret. A young man crouched inside a winepress, desperately threshing wheat where no one would see him. His name was Gideon, and he was about to lead one of the most impossible victories in Israel's history. In the town of Ophrah, a young man named Gideon secretly threshed wheat inside a winepress. Normally, wheat was threshed out in the open where the wind could separate grain from chaff. But Gideon was hiding from Midianite raiders who could appear at any moment. Dust clung to his clothes as he worked quickly and nervously, listening for movement outside. Then suddenly, someone appeared beneath the oak tree nearby, the angel of the Lord. The angel looked directly at Gideon and said, "The Lord is with you, mighty warrior." Gideon stopped. Mighty warrior. He looked around, almost as if the angel had mistaken him for someone else. He wasn't a soldier. He wasn't fearless. He was hiding in a wine press. And yet, the angel spoke as though he saw something Gideon himself could not see. Gideon finally answered, "If the Lord is with us, why has all this happened to us? Where are all his wonders our ancestors told us about? Pain, frustration, confusion, years of suffering poured out of him." Then the Lord replied, "Go in the strength you have and save Israel out of Midian's hand. Am I not sending you?" Still uncertain, Gideon prepared an offering and brought it to the angel beneath the oak tree. Meat, bread, broth. The angel instructed him to place everything upon a rock. Then, with the tip of his staff, the angel touched the offering. Instantly, fire burst from the rock. Flames consumed the food completely, and just as suddenly, the angel vanished. Gideon stumbled backward in shock. Fear flooded through him. He had seen the angel of the Lord face to face. That same night, God gave Gideon another command. Tear down your father's altar to Baal and cut down the Asherah pole beside it. The altar stood at the center of the town. Destroying it would enrage everyone. Gideon was afraid, so he waited until nightfall. Under darkness, he gathered 10 servants and quietly made his move. Ropes tightened around the idol. Wood cracked. Stone collapsed. And before dawn, the altar of Baal lay in ruins. In its place stood a new altar built for the Lord. At sunrise, the town exploded with outrage. Men crowded around the destroyed altar in disbelief. Who did this? They demanded. Soon, they discovered the answer. Gideon, furious, The people marched to his father's house. "Bring out your son," they shouted. "He must die." But Gideon's father stepped forward and shocked everyone. "If Baal is truly a god, let Baal defend himself." Soon after, the Midianites gathered once again for war. Their armies filled the valley, but Gideon still struggled with fear. So he asked God for a sign. He laid a wool fleece upon the ground and prayed, "If you will save Israel by my hand, let there be dew only on the fleece tomorrow morning." Morning came. Gideon lifted the fleece and wrung out enough dew to fill a bowl with water. Yet the ground around it was completely dry. Still uncertain, Gideon asked once more, "Please don't be angry with me. But this time, let the fleece remain dry while the ground is covered with dew." The next morning, that is exactly what happened. Gideon's call spread throughout Israel. Thousands answered. 32,000 men gathered beside him for battle. Across the valley, the Midianite camp stretched endlessly beneath the night sky. Fires burned everywhere. Camels covered the land like sand on the seashore. It looked impossible, but then God said something unexpected. "You have too many men." Gideon stared in disbelief. Too many. They were already outnumbered. But God explained, "If Israel wins with this army, they will boast that they saved themselves." So Gideon made an announcement. "Anyone who is afraid may go home." Thousands turned back immediately. 22,000 men left. Only 10,000 remained. But God said again, "There are still too many." So Gideon led the men to water. Some knelt carelessly to drink. Others stayed alert, scooping water carefully with their hands. In the end, only 300 men remained. 300 against an army beyond counting. That night, God told Gideon, "Go down to the camp. Listen to what they are saying." Quietly, Gideon crept toward the enemy tents with his servant Purah. The Midianite camp stretched endlessly into the darkness. Then Gideon overheard a soldier speaking about a dream. A loaf of barley bread came tumbling into the camp, struck a tent, and knocked it flat. Another soldier answered immediately, "This can only mean one thing. God has given Gideon victory over Midian." Gideon returned, filled with courage. He divided the 300 men into groups. Each man carried a trumpet, a torch, and an empty clay jar. Under the cover of darkness, they surrounded the enemy camp. Then Gideon gave the signal. Trumpets exploded through the night. Clay jars shattered. Torches burst into view across the hills. And the men shouted, "A sword for the Lord and for Gideon." Panic erupted instantly. Soldiers stumbled from their tents in confusion. Shadows moved everywhere. Trumpets echoed from every direction. Believing they were surrounded by a massive army, the Midianites turned on each other in terror. The camp collapsed into chaos. And by dawn, the great army of Midian was fleeing. Israel chased the enemy across the land. The oppression that had crushed them for years was finally broken. Gideon, the man once hiding in fear inside a winepress, had led Israel to victory with only 300 men, not by strength, not by numbers, but because God was with him. Fear had hidden Gideon. Doubt had weakened him. But when God called him mighty warrior, he was speaking not only about who Gideon was, but who he would become.
If this story encouraged you, Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who might need this message today. And let me know in the comments, what part of Gideon's story spoke to you the